Hi, everybody. We are here with, this is very exciting. So, Celia Slater is my business partner, one of my all-time mentors, and my friend. And there's so many titles. There's so many titles that I could lean on. But Celia, why don't you give the people your like 2 minute story?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Tree. This is really fun.
For sure.
Um, so I started out, I played college basketball. I started at Clemson and I transferred and finished out my career at Florida State. That was back in the day when you actually had to sit out a full year if you transferred somewhere. Um, and so when I got done with my playing career, I somehow stumbled into the coaching profession and I wound up coaching at the Division 1 level, which I didn't really love too much. And then I went on to coach at the Division 2 level for the majority of my career. And then in 2003-ish, I think, we took this idea to the NCAA to create the NCAA Women Coaches Academy, which is still being run to this day by We Coach, which is another organization I helped co-found. Um, so I did the Women Coaches Academy was super unique because it was probably one of the first programs that brought women coaches together of all sports in the same classroom, which is kind of part of our conversation today. Is about, because all the athletic coaches associations are very divided by their sport. So that's what made this so unique, was that all the different coaches would come into the same classroom. So I did that program for probably over 30 of those academies. And then I moved on and I started True North Sports, and then I met Tree and Lauren, and then well, I know known Tree for longer than Lauren, but we wound up starting the TLC Institute for Athletic Coaching Excellence, and I love working with Tree and Lauren. It keeps me young, and I think we really balance each other out super well. We all bring very unique personality traits and expertise and passion areas, which is critical for any really great programming. So that's me right now, and I guess on the personal side of it, I'm getting trained as a healing touch practitioner, and I also volunteer in the hospice world. I am a certified end of life doula, so I have these kind of two things going on in my life that I'm passionate about.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. So, yeah, talk about balance, right? We talk about with teams like trying to have like competing energies and whatnot. And TLC literally stands, by the way, for those who don't know, it literally stands for Tree, Lauren, and Celia, but it could stand for all of these other things. So nobody can really
Exactly.
hit us. It's our names, but um, we could not, the three of us, be more balancing is the way to say it, right? Like,
Yeah, it just makes it super fun and
it
super
really
juicy.
is.
It's definitely always juicy when we get on a call together, and I look forward to our calls. And I can't say that for all the calls I'm on.
Same. 100%. 100%. Yeah. So, and I'm just thinking about the time that you came here and we were both here at my house in Michigan and we had desks like, next to, kind of looking out at the lake and we had Lauren on a Zoom call and she's not here to like whatever, but we're only going to speak well of her. But we just sort of kidnapped her and made her be one of our partners. And so, and the, just
We
the,
did.
the fun magic that happens in the three of it's so much, it's great. It's so great.
Really glad we found her for
Yeah.
sure. We do old Sandy Hatfield Club that.
We
Thank you
do.
for helping us find Lauren.
We do. We totally do. Okay. So while we're doing this today is, well, I don't know why we don't do it more, but you and I were having a conversation yesterday just about the state of athletics. And we both see it from different perspectives, but we've also both walked in the shoes of coaches, and you get to see it from just kind of a different level with a different perspective and a skill set than I do, than does Lauren. But I want to dive into this because I think if we can help coaches directly, that's great. I think that it feels rewarding to both of us. But more and more, I think we have to start to get real about supporting their administrators. And the way I was thinking about this today, like, how are we going to set this conversation up? And the thing that like pops mostly in my head is that, and I said this yesterday on our call, I think that administrators, they have their own challenges for sure. I don't know that we couldn't do more to help them with perspective taking. And I want to get in a little bit to what we talked about with unifying all coaches across sport, because I think that's a really important thing. But I just want you to talk about that perspective, like just the administrative struggles that coaches are feeling. And I want to be clear, I don't get the sense from any of the coaches that I talk to that they're blaming their administrators at all. They understand that they're in an impossible position, but so many of the ones that we work with are trying to be transformative and transformational in their leadership in an increasingly transactional world,
Right, right, for
right?
sure.
And so, can you just talk, like, just give me your perspective on this? Because I think if there's anything we can do for coaches, we want to help them. And I think administrator conversations are a big part of that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you just said. And I do think that administrators are struggling too. Like it's a very different world in athletics right now. Everybody's trying to find their way to get through NIL, the transfer portal. Um, and I want to kind of like clarify a little bit. Part of the lens I'm coming through is mainly the highest level of college athletics right now, where NIL is playing such a huge part in a coach's life and administrator's life. The money that's involved, the players transferring and going on and here, and all the things that coaches are getting on their plate. Um, what I struggle with sometimes in the administrator world is that I feel like when coaches take on that job, I feel like the mentoring and the feedback of how to become a better coach, there's a chat, this big gap between who is really giving a coach feedback so that they can improve as a coach. In because I feel like every athletic department, first of all, really needs to have a coach's coach within the department. I think like the University of Minnesota did this, correct? They took the longtime volleyball coach, his name. I probably
It's Hugh. He used to be our national team coach before he was at Minnesota as well. Yeah.
exactly. And I feel like there's so many of those types of coaches out there that have retired who have this wisdom and this knowledge, and that could be a really incredible part, team player for the athletic department in the administrative level, that actually sits down with coaches, goes to watch their practices, is more involved, does classes for the coaches, brings in speakers, creates a curriculum, that unifies the coaches, that they can have their own collaboration group, but also that they know that they have somebody that they can go talk to, a thinking partner who really, really understands coaching, who really gets it. And I don't think this eliminates the sports supervisor. I think that those two can work together, but I think it helps in a more holistic way, right? It's more holistic if you have somebody who's a coach, or a former coach who is actually the coach's coach within the athletic department. Because those people retire and we just lose all their wisdom. I don't know why we think when people stop coaching, they're just useless. They just,
Yep.
they're not current. People call, they're not current. They're not, but I feel like there's a really big gap there, and the gap is growing because of the pressures that administrators are under, right? To win, to bring in the NIL money, to get the boosters on board, to blah, 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 blah. And then there's this other part where the coaches are in the trenches. And I don't know how some of these coaches are dealing with it if they do not get revenue share. Like, I
Yep.
don't know how they do it. I
It's such
really,
an unequal playing field. And
it
they're
is.
like
Yeah.
within, and it could be within your same conference. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and all of that is outside of any particular administrator's control, I think. But what I think that at least what I'm noticing is missing is that the human because they
Yeah.
have their own pressure. It's things like, yeah, I walked past my administrator and they didn't even say hi. What? Like
Hmm.
that's so easy. It costs $0 to reach out and be a human with the coaches in your department. And I think that so much has been thrown at coaches in the past especially 5 years, but maybe 5 to 10 would be even better because the generational shift happened around between 2010 and 2012 is really when social media saturated the market. And so many things elbowed in terms of mental health and, all of those things sort of started then. And then, since COVID on, there's just been so many things. And I think that coaches are scrambling to keep up and get themselves well versed. And it doesn't feel like there's a lot of gaps where administrators aren't understanding the perspective and what it's like to be in the front lines with this in this climate with this generation of student athletes.
I really do. I agree with you. And I think like I just wonder what would help reconnect people within a department, like to connect people, to bring some of the joy back. And I know that sounds so cliche, like,
No, but it's a thing.
but it's a thing. And I feel there's a heaviness, and people
Yes.
are trying to, you know they're trying to win, they're trying to do the best that they can, and yet it's a struggle. The struggle is real.
Celia, it's almost like if there were a program where we would take it to athletic departments and we could have a section for coaches and a section for administrators. And we would come in and do a 2-day opening and then have 5.5 months of programming and then come to your school and do a closing. It's almost like if there was a program that existed that would do exactly what you just said, it almost seems like it would be very valuable because you wouldn't have as much turnover as we can show you through our data. I don't,
Just,
it's
I mean,
crazy.
if you're an administrator out there looking, it's tlccredential.com.
There it is. I mean, really though, like what you just said is exactly right. And we have that program. We have it
Yeah.
packaged in a way that departments could totally bring it in. And yeah, the sticker shock at the beginning might seem like a lot, but if you put that against the money that you would save in coach burnout and early retirement and just leaving the profession, I think it's a bargain. But
Yeah.
I mean, we're biased. So, because it's the TLC credential and we're the T and the C. So yeah.
Yeah. I
Um,
think I
yeah,
think
go ahead.
Terry, the other thing that's always astonished me about uh, the big time college athletic model is it's so much like they want to be so corporate. They come across like, we're going to become this big corporate entity, and yet they don't they don't operate like a corporation. And what I mean by that is
Yes, go there.
very few of them have a really great onboarding process for their new coaches. Very few of them invest in professional development for their coaches. Like if they give them money for professional development, it is basically used for their convention, which I think is important for coaches to go to their convention. And yet it's a mile wide and an inch deep development. So they could take this class for 50 minutes and they go to this other session for 50 minutes. So really the development is not at the depth that we really need it for coaches. But then again, I don't know how much of athletic directors and their associate ADs are going to professional development as well.
Yeah.
So there's this corporate feel without the corporate development. Like we have our friend Kelly who worked for Ernst and Young for years, and the amount of money they put into training their employees is astounding. Like the onboarding process, the ongoing training process, the money that they put into that, to get everybody on the same page, talking the same language. I mean, it's it's just important, like to look at what are we doing to create a culture that thrives. And you're the culture expert, so you look at this like, where's the drip drip drip, where's the
Yep.
where's the people being able to grow and learn and bring it back to their departments, and feel like a team, like go team. I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel like there's so much missing there.
It totally, that's such a good comparison. And the thing is at that level, when you're talking about Ernst and Young, like if there's not great ROI on that investment in development, they wouldn't do it, right?
Right.
They know where they're spending their dollars. And so, yeah, that's so good. That's exactly it.
Hmm.
That's exactly it. And I think I mean, it obviously, we both are passionate about trying to develop formalized ways to train coaches because we recognize that it's only a profession in name. We don't have a set, educational path. We don't have, it's just the apprenticeship model. And then you use fear and some incentives to try to drive good behavior, which is so short term, right? I
Right.
mean, John Wooden just was 47,000 years ahead of his time in how he
Yeah.
approached leading his team. And that's why they were, and I'm telling you, the departments that get this quicker will be ahead of the curve because
Yeah.
it's where they're
Yeah.
failing. So, okay, let's talk about the thing that came up that prompted me to say we should just record a thing tomorrow. We talked about the coach's voice.
Hmm.
Let's just go there. Like right now, the coach's voice, especially in college athletics, I love coaches at any level, but the college athletic model right now is not set up to hear the coach's voice. Talk about that a little bit and talk about what we sort of got. Just let's get into that.
Yeah. I think like the coach's voice, like when I start to see like right now, there's been some people who have gotten fired and I honestly, I start to look around and I'm going, well, who is the coach's advocate? Like who's in the coach's corner when it comes to their life overall as a collegiate coach. And you and I were talking a little bit about like and coming back full circle to what I was sharing about the NCAA Women Coaches Academy and how it was kind of a new model where you brought coaches of all sports together into the same classroom. I feel like that's missing right now because everybody's doing their own thing. Like volleyball's doing their thing, basketball, football, all these sports are doing their own thing to elevate their sport. And yet it's not helping to elevate the profession of coaching. And the reason it's not is because everyone's divided. Their voice, and when they're divided by sport, their voice is divided. And when the voice gets divided, they lose their power. And I really would love to see the different coaches associations, the different leaders of those coaches associations come together and form either a committee or a coalition. Like a lot of um, other countries have the Ministry of Sport. But what if those coaches associations came together and created a coalition is the only word that keeps coming into my head. And so that they have a unified voice when it comes to issues around coaches. Because right now, it's so interesting because in the time that I've been working with coaches, when I first started in 2003, coaches had all the power. And then you see the shift now where the athletes have all the power. And well, I wouldn't say all the power, but they have gained a tremendous amount of power, right? And I feel like within that growth for the athletes, and I'm not saying that that's not important for the athletes to have that. What I'm saying is we shouldn't diminish the coach's power to give the athletes power. And like, how do we, because I'm going to say this, and I know this is kind of bold, but who in the hell would want to be a coach right now?
Right.
Like where is our channel for that next level, that next generation of coaches? Like who would want to do it right now?
Yep.
Who wants to be a coach at the collegiate level right now? And because it's not, I don't know. I think it's a challenging terrain. And so I guess my overall point is I just feel coaches need to start taking some of their power back by unifying their voices and gaining some power by everybody collectively going
Yep.
to the NCAA, almost like a union where they have certain things that they need to survive in this athletic world.
Yep. And right now the truth is, I mean, there are some sports within some conferences that do pretty good jobs of that and sometimes they don't, right? But I think if, sort of like not just by your conference or not just by your sport, if everybody could collectively unite, I mean, it's the same thing with our country. Like united, we stand, divided, we get our asses kicked. That's just the fact, right? It's a timeless principle. And so, yeah, I think this is a really important thing. We've talked a little bit about how to approach it a little bit. The way that you and I go at it is we just try to provide education for coaches across sport, across gender, because that at least in some little way we're trying to do that in a small scale. But I think to your point about who wants to be a coach right now, that's kind of my biggest worry is until we make it mandatory, it's always going to be a tough sell to get people to really get coaching education because that's just not how we do it in coaching, which is bizarre because you'd never let a teacher in a classroom without a license. We do it with coaches every day. It's the same job. In fact, coaches are there in more intimate times, right? And so all the more need for licensing. But whatever, we're just going to take our side of our little corner of the store and we're going to do the best we can. But who would want to be a coach right now? That's my thing. I think that people want to be a coach until they start doing it right now. And then they're like, this job is dumb. Literally just had a coach say that to me less than a week ago in all seriousness. And it's dumb. And they're saying it a little bit tongue in cheek because it's awesome and it's awful right now. And so I think that the quality of coaching is going to continue to erode and erode as really good people and high level leaders self-select out of the profession. And I go back to administration. We have to support them so that they're leading them in a better way, right?
Yeah. And I think like when you look at all the emphasis on the student athlete experience, like all this emphasis, there's so much of the student athlete experience and the student athletes' rights and the student athletes is, and I'm all for it. I
Yep.
just, what are we doing for the people that have the biggest impact on that student athlete experience? And we need to support them. We need to train them. We need to bring them together in a unified voice within, with the NCAA or the NAIA or whatever organization they're coaching for. But they really need to have that unified voice. But we have to figure out a way to make this career more doable, more long term,
Doable.
more and really have a clear path for people to become a coach. Like,
Yes. Well, yeah. Can
when
I
we
just
talk,
say, can I
yeah,
jump in? Even when you were talking about your 2 minute story, I wrote it down. How did you say I stumbled into coaching?
yeah,
Like literally, that's how you described it. And that's 95% of the people that are coaching right now, they sort of stumbled into it.
yeah. And they just, it's hands-on learning, which is not a good recipe. Like, I know for me, it was not a good recipe. I made so many mistakes. And um, it's so interesting because coaching is going to trigger, like so many of the things that you experience as a coach triggers so many of our personal life stories. And so, I mean, I think that's just the beginning of it, right? Is that self-awareness piece. But I don't know. I think there's just so many different angles to go at this. But to me, the biggest next steps would be to unify the coaches associations and to have mandatory training for coaches. And I feel like coaches might push back on that because they might not go, oh, I don't want to have to go through all that, that training. But I'm here to tell you that it's life changing, and it would make your life less stressful if you felt you were prepared to step
Mhm.
into that arena. It's when you're trying to figure things out on the fly, that's really, really hard.
Well, and I would just add too, I think, and we all agree, you and Lauren and I all agree on this. So I don't feel like I'm speaking for her while she's not here, but we think one of the most important things we can give our coaches that go through our program is connection to each other. And because coaches isolate, right? And so when you feel less alone, I can't tell you just how many times a coach will call me and we'll have a conversation and they'll feel like 500 pounds lighter by the end of the conversation just because I can finish their sentence based on what I heard the previous week from another coach that they don't even know and will never know, but I can be like, just had this conversation. Let me tell you how this is going to end. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not alone." Like just that little bit of connection, I think it's a major part of what we do in the programming. But yeah, I just think that there's some relief in that.
And I agree. And I think when you think about any CEO, of the higher up you go, the lonelier it gets.
Hmm.
And this is just a small example. So if I'm an athletic director, I hire a new coach, I build into the budget that when I hire them, one of the benefits they get is we hire a thinking partner for them for their first year on the job. And, if the coach wants to keep paying for that person after that first year, great. But the athletic department, it would be part of their onboarding process, because what coaches do in that transition from being an assistant coach to a head coach, or going from a head coach from one program to another program, what they do in that first few months is going to define their time there at the program. And I just think that's a really small thing that athletic directors could do to help onboard a brand new head coach.
Oh, so good. Yep. And we're available for those services if you want to reach out to. No, I'm just kidding. Um, okay, so we're going to start another digital cohort in February 9th, TLC Institute. If you go to tlccredential.com, you can, not yet, but soon, you'll be able to sign up. It's a really, we're trying to remove barriers and make this, accessible to anybody. So I think it's $4.99. It's a 6-month program and it's fully online. So that's where it's a huge bargain. Um, and it makes it easier for us because there's no in-person component. Meanwhile, or we're also, doing some in-person stuff, and we have another cohort that's going to start in January with the Girls Academy. Um, but can we give people a little bit of preview, because I think that you just brought it up, the story bag. We start every one of our programs with the same session, and we have the opening down to a science, and we know that because we study it. And so you're the first session of every cohort, and it's the story bag, the life story bag. Can you just give a little like taste of that and how, because I think if anything, this is the session that is referred back to as it's the most effective start to a program that I've ever seen, because everything comes back to this. Can you just give everybody a little bit of an idea what the story bag is?
Yeah, it's this image of all of us kind of carrying this bag over our shoulder of all of our life experiences, both really positive life experiences, but also what we call, dumbbells, like dumbbells that you would lift that are heavy in our story bags, that, may have affected us in a way that wasn't so positive or that was super painful. And, just being aware of those dumbbells and knowing that we have to work to shrink the weight of those dumbbells in our story bags, and we all have them. And so the more I'm aware of my story bag and how it's influenced my values, my beliefs, the way I look at the world, all of these things, I think the more we look at that and the more awareness we have around that, the better leader we can become, because we know what triggers us. We know what we need to work on. We know where our strengths are. We know what our values are. So it's all of those things that it's the deepest, it's really kind of radical self-awareness, because many of us, we just aren't aware. We just keep going through life like that little gerbil on the wheel. We just keep going, 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 and we never stop to reflect. Well, why did that kid really upset me when she said that?
Mm.
It doesn't make any sense, like why I had such a huge emotional response about that. And until we really stop and go, wow, where did that come from? And then, because like so much of our life story will continue to show up in our day to day, and in good ways too. It's not all like negative triggers, but there are those negative triggers, and so we just really look at trying to help people understand what are the gifts that are in your story bag right now. What are the dumbbells that you might need some help shrinking? And I share experiences from my own life. Like I share, how I've gone to therapy, how I've had to work through some things, how I've had to go to spirituality retreats, how I've, all the things that I've had to do to shrink some of my dumbbells. So we all have it. And then this is the really great part about it is when we really embrace, the diversity in our life story bags, it helps us open our minds to the life story bags every single one of our athletes are carrying, and the people on our staff and our athletic administrator. Like everybody's moving through their life based on what's happened in their life story bag. And so that's just kind of how we started out, to get people really thinking about their life, the what, why, and how they do things. Where did that come from? And what do we want to take and grow? And what do we really need to let go? What do we need to heal and let go of from our
Mm,
past?
so good. It's so
Mm,
good. And it so affects, I mean, we officially start most of our programming in the team culture core competency. And then we kind of move into the self relation or the relational skills. And then at the heart of our target, our model is self leadership, which you are our guru for. But it all starts with that because we know at the heart of all of that is
mm,
really what you're talking about. I think in it helps me rethink of some of the things that were dumbbells for me that I feel like I have with a lot of work turned into gifts, right? So
mm-hmm.
in my work with teams, I'm pretty hyper vigilant and hyper aware of what's going on in a room, and that's totally coming from my story bag and some
Yeah.
dumbbells that are in there. And boy, to be able to see it and be not grateful that that happened, but grateful that I was able to process it and now use it as a gift, I think is so empowering. And sometimes I see, I've said this before, like you see coaches, their shame is spilling out on their players.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that happens when we're not processing our story bag. We're just lugging around all of these, heavy dumbbells without processing. They stay dumbbells. And
Yep.
so I just think it's such a good metaphor. And I love seeing you teach it for sure. Cause like your energy, like Lauren and I talk all the time. We're like, if we don't have Celia, she's, she's the heart to our task.
Yeah, and I want to say too, and this might be a little bit um, far fetched for some people to grasp, because we are talking about athletics and careers and whatnot. But the older I get, the more I realize that life is our spiritual practice, and so things happen in our life to expand us spiritually. And I don't. It doesn't matter what your belief system is. We're getting pushed, we're getting triggered so that we can forgive, we can let go
Mm,
and expand our spirit. We can, you know, um, so it's not just going to church or, reading your Bible every morning or writing in your journal or, those are all great practices and super important. We really teach, we talk a lot about meditation, spiritual practices within our, self-care, like how do we take care of ourselves in this. But the real test is when you go out in the world and you're coaching your team and your player triggers you or your athletic director triggers you, or
hmm
like how do you work with that to become the best version of yourself? And that's really, this is a people profession. This is, if you don't like people, you really have to get out of coaching. And if you don't find people juicy and you don't find them interesting, and if you don't find your own life story and your own life journey interesting, it's going to be a hard journey for you.
hmm
Just in thinking, you walk out of church or you walk out of your synagogue or you walk out of wherever you worship, nature, whatever speaks to you, and you go into life. That's when your spiritual practice really begins, is using all those techniques, using those tools, using and really implementing that into your life. And that's what, honestly, that's why I do it. Because to me, it's really the people, the individual coaches are what matter to me. I mean, I don't, it doesn't matter to me what sport you coach. I don't care. You know, the sport is not important. What's important to me and being your mentor or working with you is that you truly know that we care about you, that we want you to become the best version of yourself. We want you to have joy. We want you to feel happy in what you're doing. I mean, who the hell wants to do a job where it's just drudgery and no joy in it? I mean,
Yeah.
who wants
Yeah.
to do that?
No, and you can feel it too sometimes like that. And I've been there for sure as a coach, like where you felt relief instead of joy after a win. Boy, that's a
Mm-hmm.
dangerous place to be, man. Because if you're, especially if you're the head coach, like, because if you're feeling that way, I promise you, there's no avoiding it. The
Mm-hmm.
rest of your staff and players are probably somewhere along that spectrum, right? And I feel like that's a pretty good barometer, but that's not the only one. And I
Right.
think honestly, I think you and I so share that passion for coaches. I want to be the resource that I wish that I would have had when I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And then I was like, I'm gonna get to Division 1 and everybody's gonna know. And so I worked and I worked and I worked. And then I got to Division 1 and I was like, oh crap, joke's on me. No one knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Everybody's making this up because we don't have a formalized way. And we're both passionate about changing that. And
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And because I think the really the part that is makes me a little sad is because athletics could be so rich. I mean, it is. I mean, at times it really is. It's just it could be more rich. It's going through this transformational process right now, and like, and I guess that's what we're suggesting is that if you're going through a transformational process and athletics is really changing, why not evolve the coach's role, evolve how coaches unite
yeah,
together to meet the times right now, because the coaches need that support and they're so important. Like,
yeah,
like coaches have been such a huge part of my life, and I
same.
know that coaches can be such a big part of their life, and we really need to elevate them.
I'm gonna just like say this point blank so that maybe we can pull this out for a short reel. But right now, the current environment and climate and support for coaches is unsustainable. Like
Mm,
this right now, we are at, I want to scream it from the rooftops. How coaches' lives are right now is unsustainable, untenable long term. There's no chance that the coaching quality is going to rise. In fact, it's going to lower only because coaches are going to say, forget this. I can go work in the corporate world and be more supported and more prepared and make a lot more. And I'm doing that. And who's going to replace them? We don't have a lot of people. Like the bench is not deep. It's not
no,
deep.
no, it's not. Especially when you talk about women and minorities
Yep.
too, that are gonna, flock into the profession. Like, I just don't see, that right
Yeah.
now. And that's the part that makes me sad. But you're right; it's totally unsustainable. It's like having a whole garden, but you don't water or fertilize that garden. Things are gonna die.
Yep.
It's not going to live. And I just not seeing the
It
tilling of the soil and the fertilizer and the
it
water.
becomes it
Where is it
becomes
coming?
it's an inhospitable environment.
Right.
That's what it is. That's what it feels. Not everybody is experiencing this, but I'm a vast majority of coaches at any level in college athletics and probably a lot in high school and club are absolutely feeling like they're in an inhospitable environment.
Yeah. I could totally see that.
Yeah. Well, this is good. If you're an AD and you're listening to this because somebody sent it to you, then you probably needed to hear it. No, I'm just kidding. We would love for you to join our Our cohort is written for coaches right now. It is so applicable to actually CEOs. It's applicable to athletic administrators for sure. We've had ADs go through it and just rave about it. And anybody can jump on and be a part of it starting on February 9th. TLCcredential.com. Keep an eye out there if you want to get a hold of Celia and I. Celia and I It's just our names at tlccredential.com. So it's Celia at tlccredential.com. Am I getting that right? Is that our email address?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Or tree at tlccredential.com. I'm not the one on the team known for my details, but we're just gonna work through it. But um yeah, this is fun.
We love coaches, and that's our passion. That's what connects the three of us, is just a deep passion for wanting to help, support, train coaches. And the ones that we've been had the opportunity to work with have changed our lives, and I know our programming has changed theirs. So
Yep. Yep.
hopefully we'll get to meet more coaches.
Do you have a favorite story from our pre- By the way, let me go back. I was in the room when the founding of what is now We Coach happened. It was in Boston at a Dimension 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was in that room.
Focus groups about it. Yep.
That was so fun. I think I was actually technically, and I told We Coach this recently, Lizzie. I was the first, you told me this. I was the first
Mm-hmm.
person to sign up, and it was the Women's Coaches Alliance at the time, right?
Yeah.
I
The
believe I
Alliance
was the first
coaches.
paying member.
Yep. There you go. There
I
you
got
go.
claim to fame. But what do you have a favorite like story or coach that you can or can't or don't have to identify? You use judgment. I have a couple that are sticking out to me.
Well, I think one of the ones that really showed me how transformational some of our classes can be on a person, and how they've coached their entire career, was when we were had our closing circle, and Jordan
Yeah.
stood up, and he coaches a men's soccer team. And when Jordan talked about how the program changed him and how he approached his young men, and basically how he was sharing, he was coaching from how he was coached. And it was kind of this toxic masculinity of, challenging degrading the guys to motivate them, and just, and what was really amazing to me, to when I was listening to Jordan talk, was how inside of him it didn't feel good to coach that way. Like but yet he was, that's how he was coached, and so he just kind of like passed it on. But then when he went through our classes, and he had this huge realization of how he didn't have to be that way, and he didn't want to be that way. And when he shifted and really started coaching from his authentic self, and really loving his guys, and creating a nurturing environment, and listening to them, and just, you know, and how it changed him, and how it changed his team. And just to see some of the quotes from his players,
Hmm.
on how different he was.
Yeah.
That was so powerful for me. Like, just to hear him talk, and, get emotional while he's talking about it. Just how freeing it was for him. That was a powerful moment for me in my coach development work, because I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that that's huge. That
That
took
was
so much courage for him to share that too.
Yeah, I don't think I set him up for that either. It was in the feedback loop session at the end. And him and I had talked the previous night. He approached me because we had had some one-on-one calls and he had talked about the thing. I agree. That's one of the most powerful moments. And, here he is, he's just such an awesome guy to begin with. And, he talks about his Scottish upbringing and, just like what was okay and not okay. And he said, he started doing some things directly from our programming during the course of the season. And he talked about one of the student athletes, one of his young men. And that's when he really got emotional. He said, I don't know what would have happened with that young man had we not been doing this and he didn't have an outlet to be able to say some things that he would have never said. He was eating lunch alone. This kid was probably struggling a little bit. And he's like, I don't know, had I not gone through this, what would have happened with him? And it really,
Mm-hmm.
it really affected him and it
Yeah.
affected me because I think that's at the core of why I wanted to do this work after I got done coaching. I remember in 2015 knowing that I was going to get fired from Central Michigan because my head coach had gotten fired and I was the associate and that's how it works but had already had this idea like I wanted to affect more than just the 16 to 20 women on my direct team and that to me is everything. When he said that and he talked about his player, how many other players' lives are better because of the work that we've been able to do? That
Hmm.
to me is like, oh, that's
Yeah.
massive.
And then also just for, the coaches to feel more at peace in their hearts of that I'm
Yes.
really being myself. Like I'm not being fake. I'm not trying to be the coach to
Yes.
coach me. I'm really being myself. And I mean that just brings me so much joy when coaches really are happy with themselves doing what they're
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
because then that trickles on to their athletes big time,
Totally.
you know.
Totally. So good.
Yeah.
Well, friend, I love you.
I love you
I'm
too.
so lucky to get to do, I can't, it's like a pinch me moment all the time. Cause like,
I'm gonna retire. So
not
I know
anytime
you and
soon. We're just,
Lauren, you and Lauren keep going la 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 la
mhm.
la.
Yep, we sure do. But we are being very like intentional. I'm like, nope, she just let her sit in her joy zone, and we'll be over here doing all these other things. But as long as we can keep her in her joy zone, we get to keep her because
Yeah.
you're kind of not replaceable when it comes to the three of us. So we just got to figure this out. We're not ready to face reality.
Well, I'm just gonna put this statement at the end, and you can edit this out easily because it's at the end. I When I started working in hospice work and I start sitting with people that are dying, it's it's crazy how so much, I'm just gonna say, so much shit just doesn't matter. And you realize, when you if you begin with the end in mind of what do you want people to be saying about you at that time in your life, like
Hmm.
who do you want to be, because honestly, like when I'm sitting with somebody and they're dying and it's a soul to soul connection, like it doesn't matter what gender they are, what religion they are, what political party they belong to, what sexuality they are, it doesn't matter. It's You really feel that soul to soul connection. And I know, like, it's hard to even get to that, and a lot of people don't want to talk about that, but when you really think about it, when you really think about what do you want to be thinking about in the last moments of your life, who will you be thinking about, what
Oof.
will you be thinking about? It ain't going to be, how many wins did I have, how much money do I have, how many houses do I have? No, you're going to be thinking about the people.
Hmm.
And that's what, if we can all kind of get to that place of what's really most important to us, what's really the person I want to be, how can I impact as many lives in a positive way, before I exit this planet. That's that's the most important thing. Coaching is just a vehicle for us to love on other people. That's what it is. And
Ooh.
it's just a way for us to help other people grow. It's a vehicle, it's a way, just like working at Pepsi or working at UPS. It doesn't matter. Whatever your vehicle is, whatever your modality is, it's all about getting to that place where, we can feel good about it at the end.
I love how you just said that coaching's just a vehicle to love on other people. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
so perfect. I heard recently, I was listening to Brene and Adams like 6-part series on her new book, which is unbelievable. If you haven't heard it yet, I'll listen to it 4 more times. I assure you.
So
But
they did a podcast on four.
they
Oh,
they did
cool.
like
Yeah.
6 parts. It just Adam and her, and so like they build on some of the ideas within that book, which is very dense already.
Mm-hmm.
But in it, she's talking about she uses some sports metaphors in there, but she uses them all the time, just in general in her work.
Mm-hmm.
And she she said, I love using sports metaphor because I think that at the end of the day, athletics is just oh my goodness, I lost it. It's leadership. It's a leadership laboratory.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that so great?
It's so true.
It's so true. And like I just love like I'm romantic about athletics and about coaching, right? I love
Yeah.
it just at its very core. And that is another metaphor that I would put side by side. Like
Yeah,
it's just a vehicle to love up on some people. It is.
exactly. Yeah,
It
like every
sometimes it doesn't
time.
look good. Sometimes it's a hard
Yeah,
love,
right,
but
exactly. Exactly. That's why I really love the in-person programming, because I walk in that room and I go, I get to love on 40 people today.
yeah,
I get to love them. And I think that we're all looking for places to go where we feel that. We
yeah.
feel that love and acceptance. And that's what our hope is, to create an environment where people feel that when they come in the classroom.
That's what we try to do. That's what we
Yep.
try to do.
Well, thanks, Tree. This was fun.
This was fun. Thank you so much.
All right.